You've landed on the page for biology preparation for the GAMSAT. Well, where does biology feature in the GAMSAT? It is a very large component of Section 3. And, well, let's face it, Section 3 is often considered by so many students and instructors and everyone in the space to be the hardest one. The biology component is often seen as easy or something, because many of the people who sit the GAMSAT have a bioscience background to begin with. You know, they took Year 12 biology. Traditionally, biology has always been part of medicine, and historically, all of modern biology came out of medicine, and all of the modern research in biology is medical research. But that sense of familiarity is very deceiving. Biology makes up about 40% of the questions in Section 3, with the remainder about equally shared between chemistry and physics. And if you'd like to learn more about that, GradReady has all sorts of resources for those subjects, and it also talks about, in a separate paper, if you're following along reading the paragraph as I talk to you, they talk about the breakdown of Section 3 by subjects, and how different medical schools in Australia can weight it a lot higher than the other sections of the exam. So with that in mind, biology being like the biggest individual contributor, I mean, it makes sense to me to put a lot of effort into it, and even if you feel familiar, it should be, well, it forms part of a healthy diet. The GAMSAT is a very non-traditional exam. It tests thinking skills. It tests the ability to integrate complex information based on, well, what's essentially common knowledge in the medical field, and to draw complex conclusions from that, just as you would as a doctor. Because what does a medical professional do on a day-to-day basis? They essentially make impossible decisions on incomplete information. A doctor has to decide on what to treat without having any guarantee of what they're even treating in the first place. I'll give you an example from my own life. I was attending a hackathon. Right? What's a hackathon? What's hacking got to do with medicine? Well, it was a bioinformatics hackathon where we were analyzing a very, very rich data set on the microbiome of the lungs and sputum samples, to be more precise, of cystic fibrosis patients. That's a debilitating genetic disease, very common textbook example. You would have all certainly heard of it. And if not, well, it's a disease that makes very thick sputum, and the cilia in the alveolar and bronchial epithelium are unable to push out all the pathogens that we inhale on a minute-by-minute basis. I've probably inhaled a couple since I've started talking to you. Are unable to expel them as it normally would happen, and sadly, they flare up and into multiple resistant infections that have to be treated with pretty heavy antibiotics. And since the clinician doesn't know precisely what is in the person, because think about it, you know, a traditional laboratory test, a pathology test, will take a few days to spread them on a petri dish and grow them up and see what's on there. And that won't even reveal all of it, which the point of the hackathon was to see if genetic sequencing of the samples would enable us to get more detailed and faster information, and from a practical standpoint, whether it would actually alter the decisions that the clinician had in fact made for these specific people had they had the knowledge of as obtained from the genetic sequencing. That just shows you how, and that was a real doctor I spoke to, right, doing it. Runs the specialized cystic fibrosis clinic in my state. So this just goes to show how far the medical profession spreads and how relevant the GAMSAT study is, because you don't only build subject knowledge and you don't only build exam skills, you get the ability to skim information and extract the useful bits out of it and use them for your own purposes. Alright, let's get underway. I'll tell you what, 1 minute, edit here. Alright, let's get underway with how a specific biology concept can be applied in all kinds of contexts. Negative feedback. You start with an action that produces a response, possibly based on inputs from the environment. And the kicker is that this response has a downregulating effect on the actor that produced it. Case in point, lactoferron. Lactose comes in, binds to the repressor protein, de-represses it, which expresses an enzyme that breaks down said lactose. However, that has an inhibiting effect on this because the repressor is activated and turns down this arrow. That's not direct, but the principle is the same. Another example, hormone regulation in the body. I don't know, thyroxine levels are too high. Who knows what might have happened, but thyroxine levels in the blood are too high. The hypothalamus, which caused the thyroid hormones to be produced indirectly through thyroid releasing hormone, and then thyroid stimulating hormone, and only then to the thyroid gland. But suppose these levels are a bit too high. Well, this guy's going to sense it and attenuate this whole axis, causing a reduction in thyroid hormone levels. Another example, predator-prey relations. If you have time on here, an amount of, say, prey. The amount of prey goes up, the amount of predator goes up again, causing this guy to go down, causing this guy to go down, causing this to go up, causing that to go up, and down, and like that they're offset. Volterra-Lotka equations describe this if you're interested in the mathematical side. Pointers. Study for the GAMSAT. It's good for you. Study for the biology. It'll help you score highly and hopefully make you a high-powered clinician. The GAMSAT does not test specific knowledge. I repeat, it is enough to read the summaries at the start of typical undergraduate textbooks to attain a very good level of factual understanding, and the rest is all down to practice and practice and another practice. That's a good study approach for the GAMSAT in general. After gaining some basic subject knowledge, you need to apply it in multiple choice questions, which there's plenty of. MCUs. What will they give you? They'll give you 1, comfort, because you want to be really comfortable with these things because your whole life will depend on it. Well, that's a pretty broad claim. Whether your whole life will be constrained to medical school for the next 6 years will depend on it. 2, it will give you ID weaknesses. if you take multiple choice questions and analyze your results, not statistically per se, but if you are intelligent about the information you draw from your own performance, you'll be able to identify the weak areas and tailor your study to, well, them obviously. What's the point of rereading textbooks? You know, some people like start reading a book from page 1 and run out of steam by page 30, you know? And that same amount of physical expenditure could have been invested into skimming the summaries at the start of every chapter. Maybe every second chapter, you know, that way you truly do cover the whole book. Remember what I said before about skimming and extracting useful information? That's a foundational skill as a clinician. That's a foundational skill in life. Now you might be thinking, what if I come from a non-science background? What if I have never sat a multiple choice question exam? Well, in a sense, you might have an advantage because you don't come in with preconceived notions of things, in a sense. You don't read between the lines as people with a science background often do, that way not really internalizing what the question is asking, not really answering the question. That's such a common problem, such a common mistake, is, you know, ignoring double negatives or seeing a couple of keywords and like, yep, I know what to write, and the question is really asking a completely different thing, you know? And you can kind of get away with doing this in recall type exams, but not the GAMSAT. You know, ACER will test comprehension, and they're Australia's highest body for the science of education and like the science of assessment. So they've thought long and hard about what the best way is to test genuine skills and not simply subject knowledge or recall or memory or any of the faculties like that. So I wouldn't mess with them. What about scientific terminology? And in mathematics, they've worked out a long time ago that if you want clarity in your own head, you need clarity of expression. You need to call things the technical term. So you have to refrain from talking about abstract, disconnected, ungrounded ideas, and you always have to tie it back to an example, like I hopefully showed you with the negative feedback situation. Clarity of expression is clarity of mind. With that out of the way, what are some other things you can do to enhance your GAMSAT preparation for biology, to improve your score, to improve your future, to improve your life, other than practicing multiple choice questions? There's a few things you can do actually. One, as I foreshadowed earlier, is to to analyze your multiple choice question results, because it'll help you, it's insightful, it's metacognition. That helps you invest your energy, you know, because we're all busy people. And if we're all busy people and we like doing amazing things, well, they just take longer. So give yourself a lot of time. Start like really early, you know? Start 6 months before the exam. Start when the previous exam round is underway. Start preparing a year in advance. It'll help you form memory triggers for all the different concepts you're learning as you go through just your everyday life. It'll help you get a richer understanding of biology, because it requires life. It is about life. It requires you to be alive. It requires you to have an interesting and, how do I say it, rewarding life, for it to be a rewarding experience to study biology. How can you achieve that? Well, one way is through a study group. GradReady has a very good post on how to start a study group. You can do it in person with all your friends. You can do it, well, most people's friends aren't in their area of expertise, are they? You can start an online study group in Discord, over Zoom, over Slack, however you feel like. It really helps you to keep you accountable. You can join online communities and explore the entire GAMSAT sphere on the internet. What else can that give you? That can give you a list of topics. That's an extremely useful thing, because a list of topics will essentially correspond to the chapter names in whatever books you might be using, like GAMSAT Biology, 10 out of 10, recommend it. It's the perfect book for our purposes. All those clinical revision books are a bit too technical, I don't know. They are dry, not very visual, not very clingy to your head, and are probably more useful for when you're training up for an specialized clinical knowledge exam after you've been through medical school for a little while. Sitting mock exams, that should be the last stage of your GAMSAT preparation. In a sense, you start with multiple choice questions, kind of small, in terms of exam similarity. You start small, you analyze the questions, you stop and go and have a book open next to you and try and connect different concepts to it. That's really important. Don't just start, pummeling yourself with like, all right, man, I'm going to do this in 3 hours. I'm going to do all these questions in 3 hours, no books, no nothing. We're going to work myself to the bone. No. At the start, it helps to sit with a book because it generally enhances your understanding. But you need to make a proof decision about where it's organic, where it's natural, where it's practical to progress to the next stage with this topic. And you don't have to tick off every box. You're not working for someone else. You're not working to present to someone else. Don't work pretty. That's that connects to trying to read the book from page 1 to page 1001. Don't work pretty. It's for you. Your notes are for you. Your notes are dirty. Your notes help you understand. Your notes address your areas of weakness. They're not really meant for anyone else. Then, as your understanding of a subject grows, you begin to go down. Oh, and you lost it. Oh, you forgot. You've forgotten everything. Well, what can you do, Maybe you had a wedding. Or your sister had a wedding or something. Well, alright, kind of so here. Then you start building up the complexity of your exams again, of your questions again, and you start building up your ability to sit the actual exam, to start building your exam skills, as opposed to subject knowledge skills. In a sense, the fraction changes like this. Subject knowledge goes down, exam skills start up low, become a much greater proportion of your time as you get closer to the big day. Right? In the end, like in your last day, in a sense, this goes to zero, and just life becomes the real skill. The last week before an exam, you just go on holiday. I don't know, relax. The only way to be cool is to, be cool. I don't know how else to put it. What does this triangle actually consist of? Time management. That's the single biggest stumbling block for so many students, is while sitting the exam, they will, and I'll give you an example from my own. Once I really botched a biochemistry exam because I started working pretty. I started writing out the plan for every question. like my answer plan for every question. I went through 10 of them, and I'm like, all right, now we're going to go to the bathroom and have a water, and then I come back and I start writing my questions. I'm feeling so good about myself, and then there's 40 minutes to go, and I've got 3 questions left, and oh my god, I've botched this one, haven't I? So if you have an idea that you know is good to go on the clean, on the submission document, just pop it on there. Fine, pop it on there. You can always edit that on the clean document. It's kind of like that in GAMSAT preparation. The clean document is your head. The clean document is your understanding. The clean document is your confidence and the ability to perform. So ask yourself, is an action contributing to my exam performance? Yes, no, maybe. If it's no, bing, out the window. You don't have time for it. You don't have time for it. And actions that do contribute to your exam performance could be quite meditative. They could be watching fairly long dissection videos. Maybe that really gets you in the headspace of a biologist or a doctor. There's some really good channels out there, like non-functional anatomy, I love those so much. It's not my personal area not the area that I work in. I'm in biomedical research, cells and stuff. Cells, chemicals, sequences, computers even. But it just grounds me to get back to gross anatomy, to objects you can touch and feel and understand. Edit here. Basically, treat the questions as logic puzzles, as crosswords in the Sunday paper, just dressed up in scientific terminology. They're all fairly concept A, concept B, data. Explain data. Create concept C using concepts A and B, And that same flowchart, process flowchart, applies to, at least it's a helpful attitude to adopt as you're answering your questions. So what are the questions going to be on? What are the subjects? Well, all of the biology subjects, in a sense, being clinical, are mostly taken up by organ systems. I'll draw a little stylized human for you. Stylish, right? Well, what are we going to think of? Alright, mouth, digestive tract, stomach, liver. I believe it's on this side. Correct me if I'm wrong. Count. Brain. Out. Closely followed by the respiratory tract. And watch how close it is. I'm already running out of space to draw the lungs. So the lungs must have a heart and a heart notch in it, and the heart must have arteries, and it must connect to the lungs, and it must spread out everywhere in the body to carry its stuff. The brain controls everything. Majority of the brain's time is actually not spent thinking or anything like that. Majority of the brain's time is spent, operating the gut and the lungs and the heart and the cardiovascular system, and sending out signals to the muscles, for example, to operate these, or operate, the bladder, or operate balance muscles. Behind all this is a skeleton. Around all this is the muscles, and that's what we love doing, right? We love neuroanatomy of movement, for example. What a brilliant area, right? Point is that there's not a lot of space in the human, and even though all the organ systems are often studied separately, that's in the interest of time, in the interest of clarity of expression and understanding in students, it's extremely important to integrate them, to understand how, say, an action such as having a meal will progress through the entire body. in a sense. You'll become hungry in your head, you'll eat it, the digestive tract will work, it'll go into the cardiovascular system, it'll go around the blood, it'll nourish your muscles, it'll eventually nourish your bones. The hormone, the thyroid, and adrenal gland might even be involved in that, perhaps it's a very emotionally charged meal, so you're just going bonkers. Then you're going to have to excrete it, you're going to have to, why haven't I covered yet? Well, maybe you'll want to go for a run after and sweat it out. Psychological, skin, muscle. It's very useful to track how individual actions propagate through the entire body to really integrate them, and to integrate them with other areas of the exam, such as chemistry and physics. Well, physics, quite obviously, just bulk, liquid transport, blood flowing around the body, air. You've got to really comprehend your balloons expanding and contracting, and you've got to have a reasonable understanding of transport phenomena as well, especially like filtration in the kidneys is best understood as with a physical analogy, or vasoconstriction, vasodilation. On top of this sits the biochemistry side of things. All you need to know really is a cell that has a nucleus and a powerhouse, and for some reason they always like you to mention the ER, so talk about the ER. DNA to RNA to protein. Done. That's all you need to know for the biochemistry and cells and enzymes kind of section. Oh no, enzymes. There's enzymes here. They carry out different reactions. The enzymes are catalysts, so they lower the energy barrier of a reaction, which would have been like that. But with a catalyst, it's more like this. So there's a contribution from the catalyst, with the reaction on the x-axis and the energy on the y-axis. That is it, right? There's so much extra detail you can draw around this, right? It's my bread and butter as a bioinformatician. But you'll be given any of the essential. You'll be told that, a protein sonic hedgehog is responsible for defining ossification of what are they called? The tissue that comes before bone. Well, there you go. It doesn't matter what it's called, right? Because the gene's diffusion through the body is what matters, Maybe they'll give you an equation to describe its diffusion, and you have to calculate something, and then you'd have to say, how in principle, you'd explain its deficiency, you'd explain with its deficiency the effects it has on the body, such as, fused fingers and things like that, right? Horrible stuff, but you kind of have to emotionally step aside. And as a medical professional, it will be very important to integrate that into your practice, the emotional side. But that's a whole other topic of discussion. Edit here. To learn all this and to only learn the essentials and to spend your time efficiently, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are so many pre-existing resources out there. Everyone goes to Khan Academy because it's really brilliant. Brilliant is pretty good, but it costs money. Crash course, wonderful. Better than me, better than what I can draw. My holy grail when I present is crash course in chemistry and in biology and in physics. Bing, bing, bing. All you need to know. The entire GAMSAT sphere on the internet has blogs and blogs of subject lists that will be just so useful when you're planning out your calendar. Make a Gantt chart of your revision project. GradReady offers a free trial of just everything we do, and it includes, and I have a list here, 50 free multiple choice questions, a week by week revision guide for different times you can start before the exam revising, a list of topics for section 3, a few pre-recorded webinars, And if you choose to go for the attendance courses, you'll get personalized support, personalized tutoring if you'd like to. You'll get in-person sessions where you can, I guess, emotionally connect with other students and form that study group and begin that discussion that will ground your concepts in reality, give you memory triggers and stuff. You'll get people much more experienced than me and much better explainers than me to explain you things, right? You'll get unlimited multiple choice questions and extended analytics. Well, limited by the size of the question bank, obviously, which is really big and growing by the minute. And advanced analytics to help you target areas and be clever about what you're doing. So, be cool, be clever, take care of yourself, take care of your health. Because there's nothing more moronic than a health professional who's bad at their own job, in a sense. How can a health professional be unhealthy? It doesn't make sense to me. To me, it shows something fundamentally wrong with the person's professionalism. So look after your health. Take brain breaks. Learn self-care. What works for you, and take it easy. You're gonna ace it. You're gonna ace it if you take the right steps. Thousands of people have done it in the past. If you take the right steps, you'll do it. You'll get what you want out of life. You'll get what you want out of GAMSAT. You'll get what you want out of biology. So study hard, and I'll see you later.